Hey, everybody, we are live and it is maple syrup time on a Wednesday evening. And it is dark outside and I don't like it. Like, it was getting light. It was staying light until this, around 8, 9. And now it's dark because it was a dreary day in good old London, Ontario. Um, so, anyway, we are here and we are live and we are with two very special guests. You might call them you know, award winning and nominated for award guests. And then there's me. And I'm not nominated for anything. And Kat and George are here as well. They got back from George's birthday last week. Happy birthday, by the way. How was it? Was it fun?
Yeah, it was great. Thanks.
And what did you do? Because I remember you telling me what it was, and I thought it was really interesting, but now I can't remember.
We did a bunch of stuff in sort of central Portland, like because somehow we really rarely ever get out there, so it was just an opportunity to have just a breakfast at a cool place and just do a bit of wandering and see a movie at one of my favorite movie theaters and go to Powell's Books, which is I think it's the largest used bookstore certainly in the country, if
Oh,
not.
cool.
Um, yeah, a few other things. Take the train because by American standards, Portland has one of the better public rail systems, which is probably mediocre by most other
Hmm.
places, but still, it works and it shows up pretty much on time, which is pretty amazing. Um,
Our train system in Canada is not so great.
ah,
It's like
Terrible.
almost not
Terrible.
for public transport for like getting wood across Canada, it's fine, but for public transportation, it's not good at all. So we have two very special guests with us, and I'm going to get them to introduce themselves because it's a litany of accomplishments and things. So we're going to start with Helaina. Helaina, tell us who you are and why you're here.
Uh, why I'm here? Well, you invited me, so.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Helaina Cappel. I own KTBG, or Kids Table Board Gaming, and Burnt Island Games. I spent a very long time as an elementary school teacher and sort of transitioned over 6 or 7 years to becoming a publisher. And I've been doing this for 10 years now. And we've got, I think we're on game 24 and 25 at the moment that we're working on, and 26. And I'm Canadian. I live in Canada. And I feel like that's really important to say.
It is. And can you name some titles that are on your slate as Burnt Island and or Kids Table?
Sure.
Might know.
Sure. I think our most well-known kids table games are Creature Comforts and Dice Veggies. And we are doing a localization just now of a game from Japan called Nanatori Dori. And everybody's very excited about that. And we just finished a Kickstarter campaign, and we're printing a 2-player game called Layers. So that's KTBG. And then we have Burnt Island Games, and Burnt Island, I think, is most well known for Endeavor Age of Sail and currently Endeavor Deep Sea, and In the Hall of the Mountain King, and most recently also How to Save a World, which is delivering to backers right now.
Wonderful. So lots of different variety. 2 separate imprints because of the different weights and audiences, I guess, right?
Correct. Yeah. So,
and you have to say, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so the KTBG brand is really focused on having adults and kids engaged in play at the same time. And the Burnt Island games are more strategy and expert-based games.
Yeah. Core hobby gamers.
Yeah.
And what is the extra special thing about Dice Veggies?
The extra special thing about Dice Veggies is it was designed by my son and my niece, who were both 11 at the time. And also Josh, my husband.
That guy.
No, whatever about him.
Not
But
special.
he's special. But it was very collaborative, and they did an amazing job, like an absolutely amazing job with it, to the point where it's currently our best-selling game.
Are you kidding me?
Nope.
That is awesome.
Yep.
And it won an award last year, didn't it?
It did. It won an Origins Award.
Right. And we're going to talk all about awards today, everybody. So if you have questions about awards, if you want to talk awards, this is the place to do it because we're delving into that today. All right, VJ Bell. And we call him VJ Bell because that is his handle on like Twitter and well, not on Twitter. Are you off Twitter completely now?
I am off Twitter. I shut my
Because
account
that
down.
account does
so
not
I guess
exist
I don't-
anymore. So
Yeah, I guess I don't own it anymore.
no, there is the Jav Bell.
Wow.
It wasn't you though. And then so VJ Bell exists on Blue Sky now. We'll talk about that a little later. But J Bell, who are you? What do you do in the industry, and why are you here today?
Yeah, so I am a game designer and graphic designer. I am also a pre-press specialist with Panda Game Manufacturing. And yeah, I've been designing games for about 5 years now, almost 6 years. And yeah, I've published a game with Jack of Peace Games. It's a hidden information area control card game. I've worked on graphic design for a few different companies like Night Shift Studios that did Critical Care, a lot of work with Weird Giraffe Games. So yeah.
There
And
you
I
go. There you
guess
go. Cool.
I'm here because of a contest that just happened called the Cardboard Edison contest, right?
Right. That is why you are here today. So let's talk awards. Kat, in your mind, are awards meaningful? Oh, I don't know if Kat can actually hear me. She might be frozen. Oh, there's a nod.
It's coming and going. My connection's really dodgy. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm going to pass it to George then, who is in the same house, but the connection seems to be okay. George, what do you think when you hear that a game is an award-winning game? What does that make you think?
I mean, I think it's hit a certain level. I mean, it depends a lot on. Well, I'm great at this. I feel like it has been separated from the chaff in a sense, so that it hits a certain level of interest and interaction, and it's certainly worth consideration. Like whether you agree or not, a group of people who spend their time dedicated to looking at games and deciding whether they deserve awards have decided that this deserves an award, and I think that's worth pause to at least understand what's going on.
What's going on is that Kat just dropped, so we'll figure out how to get her back on in a second. But JF is saying congrats to everybody. JF is ex-Panda, now with a publisher, and he's good friends with like pretty much everybody here, which is great to see him. So thanks, JF, for your comments. Anybody else out there in Maple Syrup Land, if you want to ask questions, you have comments, if you just want to congratulate people, that's also great too. So we'll talk about that, and hopefully Kat gets back on soon. What about you, Jay? What do you think of when you see an award label on a game box? I mean, obviously, because you work pre-press, you probably have to stick them on things a lot. You get the graphic file and you're like putting it on their box covers and whatnot.
Yeah. Hopefully I don't have to stick it on their box, but I can if you ask me nicely enough. Yeah, I guess when I see an award on a box or some sort of recognition, it does kind of make me consider the game a little more. It tells me that the game has been, I guess, reviewed a little more rigorously, developed a little more rigorously. There's been a few more eyes on it. Yeah, that's what I think of.
Yeah, I like the word rigor. That word makes me happy as a science guy. And Helena, what about you? What do you think when you see an award?
Well, I mean, thank you, everyone. By the way, thank you. I'm in a bit of a weird spot because I sort of straddle the toy market as well, and the toy market looks at awards a little bit differently than the hobby board game market does.
Mhm.
So a lot of those awards are paid. So sometimes you're looking at an award, like they're not going to give awards to crappy things, I think, but like sometimes you're seeing an award on a box because they have paid to have that, that logo on there. And sometimes you're looking at an award where it's like your peers have evaluated your game and they think it's the best one out of the bunch that they have taken a look at. And like for me, like I really value the Origins Award more personally than I do many of the other awards, because I know my peers are the ones that are voting on who should win. So I think it really just depends on what the award is.
That's a good point. So, um, I'm not sure if I can say this or not. I don't know. I'll say it just because I sit on the committee for the Origins Awards. I don't know if people know that I do, and I sit on the committee for lots and lots of other awards. And but it is true. So there are some awards that are very like inside the industry. Your peers are voting on it, and we play all the games, and we have like rubrics and scoring methods and all these things that ex teachers like me and Julia Hearn have put into practice. But they're different from some of the other ones where you actually have to pay to submit your game, which is this. I guess there's a thing to paying because it is a process, and you might need to
Mhm.
pay people to judge and things like that. But there's also then that barrier to it, which is not a bad barrier in some ways because you don't want to everybody to submit something. They have to be serious about it, but it does have that weird kind of feeling that it was like a something that was almost bought and paid for, right? So I get what you're saying there. We have actually in the chat right now, we have Mr. Randy Flynn saying hello to everybody. And Randy, if you didn't know, won the Spiel last year for Cascadia and is nominated a second time this year for his work with Fortissa Elise, who's also a great friend of the show, for Cascadia Junior. So that is awesome. Awesome to have you here, Randy. Congratulations to you. So, what awards move the needle sales wise, Helena? We were talking a little bit about it off camera, but what do you think? Does the Origin Awards move it at all? Even though you respect it a lot, but does it move the needle?
I mean, I think that they all move the needle. They all get
Yeah.
eyes on games that maybe that people wouldn't necessarily have seen before. And we were talking like in the pre-show that like we had amazing comments on our post about Endeavor being nominated, that people have seen the game but they never really thought of picking it up, and now that it was nominated for awards, that they might want to do that. There are even some paid awards I think are good for getting eyes on a game or on a toy or whatever it is. Moving the needle, I think that some awards are better at it than others.
Okay, which ones would those be? Just off the top of your head.
Well, the Spiel DR for sure. I mean, from
Yeah.
what I hear, legend has it that if you win, you're going to sell 200,000 games. I don't know if that's actually the case, but
I mean, there's somebody here who we could ask. His name is Randy Flynn.
Randy.
If you have the numbers, Randy, if you could talk a little bit inside baseball, and I've heard the same, Helena. So, anecdotally speaking, there is the biggest push comes from that award. And why do you think? Why do you think it comes from that award specifically? And anybody can chime in on that one.
Well, the Spiel des Jahres has been around for a really long time. It's got a lot of
longevity.
cachet. It's got a lot of. I mean, people respect it. The process is known. It's not the same as just one small convention doing an award. It's a really big thing. I mean, I remember we bought games based on the fact that they had won that award when I was a kid. I've got one of, I think it was a run of 1,000 games that was a winner from 1981, and that award was one of the reasons we bought the game in 1981 or whenever it was.
Yeah. George, what about you? What do you think? What awards move the needle for you? Like if you looked at something and you said, "Yeah, you already told us that. Yes, I get something out of seeing them, but which one specifically, and why do you think the Spieliage moves the needle for most people?"
I'd be curious to know, like, what the, and this is my way of saying I don't know in a sense, but what the breakdown by countries is as to like which ones are more effective in different places. I'm sure I can't remember. Kat, the game about Native, where were you at that? Was that still in New Zealand or?
No, that was, we were living in Belgium at the time,
Right.
but the Spiel des Jahres is a German award.
Yes, I'm wondering how the impact's different across different areas. I feel like
it's probably one of the few that would have an international weight.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would be.
Yeah. And Jabo, what about you? Oh, sorry. Keep going.
No, sorry. We have 3 or 4 LGSs here that we frequent, and like it's not like there's a section with award winners, that sort of thing. By the time you pick the box off of the shelf, like you're already looking at the front, and if there's a sticker on it, there's a sticker on it. But like you didn't scan to find the award, so I'm wondering which ones pull. Like it's not, if you're not marketing yourself that way, like I don't think the stores do it very heavily. Anyway, Jay.
Yeah, I think the SDJ has in a lot of places become synonymous with like the winners are like the game of the year kind of thing. And while that's not necessarily the case, that's kind of how the community looks at it. So it holds a bit of weight there. I also personally, like, if I see a box that Shut Up and Sit Down is endorsing, I kind of feel like, it's been critically evaluated by people that we assume know good board games. So that's kind of the same way I look in the awards. Just it's been critically evaluated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and I can speak to that up effect because we had a Kickstarter this is the story. Mind Management was already being sold.
Mm-hmm.
It was already published. It was done. And then Mind Management came out from Shut Up and Sit Down. And Martin, I think it was Martin, it might have been Martin, who said, "You guys should probably think about running another Kickstarter." And, a million years later, he had that game back out again because it was such a big effect from one really, really positive review from a very respected outlet for that type of game, right? And I think that's sort of the thing. Like, if people understand who is giving the review or the award, then it carries some weight, right? Because you tend to find a review that you like and you follow them for their insight, and like 9 times out of 10, then you'll buy games that they highly rate, and 9 times out of 10 they're going to be right about your taste because you share something with them, right? We have some numbers in the comments. So Randy said that he doesn't do the numbers, but yes, there was a very big push after the nomination. The first print run after the Spiel des Jahres was the largest in the history of Cascadia. And then JF says that the Spiel and the Kennerspiel figures are different. From his knowledge, the 200 to 300K figures sound about right in the ballpark for SDJ. Kenner is going to be varying based on the game. We should talk about the differences.
Mhm.
And the Kinder is, in his understanding, more of a seasonal thing, which makes sense as well, because we usually buy kids' games as presents around present times, when we're giving gifts. But Kennerspiels we'd buy, and Spielejahr level games we'd buy any time of the year, really, because we are the ones with money, the adults, right? So I get that. So what's your understanding, everybody, about the levels in the Spielejahrs? So and the application, or it's not even the application. They pick. We can't submit and say, please consider my game for the Kennerspiel, or please consider my game for the Spielejahrs, right? The the process is, well, Helena, what do you think the process is, or what do you know about the process so far?
What I know is, number one, that the game has to be distributed widely in Germany in German. That's the number one thing.
Yeah.
The number two is that I believe that the people who are on the committee need to be interested in the game. Like they had a video when they were doing the announcement, and they showed in the different categories how many games were actually evaluated, and there's like 300 in each of the categories. So they're playing all of these games. Are they playing all of them? I don't know, but they're evaluating them somehow. Um, and then from there, I guess they make a shorter list, and then they play all of them, and they must have some sort of rubric as well that they're looking at. I mean, they've been doing this for so many years that they know exactly what they're looking for. I was a little surprised at the Kennerspiel category this year. Far Away is a really amazing game, and I find it very odd that it's in the category that it's in. So I would love to be able to speak to somebody from the committee to understand how that and Endeavor end up in the same category. So maybe
Yeah.
maybe it's more porous between the different categories. I mean, the Kinderspiel makes very good sense. They're kids games, and all of those are in the same category. But the spiel itself, and then the Kennerspiel, I don't, I'm not sure I get it this year, at least.
Yeah, it is fascinating. The whole difference in the Kennerspiel, which is not actually, in the history of the Spiel des Jahres, it's not a early thing that was adopted. It's been adopted within the last, decade or so. It's not this thing that they've always had. It was when they started to get games that were good games, but were heavier weight than we're usually doing. The other thing to know about the Spiel des Jahres, the jury was originally composed of writers, of people who wrote about games for magazines and newspapers and periodicals in Germany, because games were such a part of culture that they had dedicated journalists for this lifestyle part of the newspaper that would review and talk about board games. We don't have that here in North America. We do have, video games and things like that, but there's nothing to that level. And so I think the other thing that we, typically assume or, associate with journalists is that, journalistic integrity, research, all that kind of stuff. And so that's another reason why I think the Spiel des Jahres has that kind of weight to it as well, is that it's a trusted source of information, and they've been doing this for so long, and there hasn't been any like scandal, like, oh, these people took like $1 million to make this game win, anything like that. So I don't know. Um, we have some other comments here. Um, Randy says that the impact in Germany is clearly enormous, and then the European markets in general have an impact, but the direct impact in the USA is lower, than it
Mhm.
might be if it was like a US based, award. But I don't think there is a US based award that has even the level of impact that the Spiel des Jahres does, at least in my knowledge. Like, there's an American tabletop award that, was maybe 5 or 6 years old now. There's a Dice Tower seal of approval, all those things. So I don't know if there's one that is as impactful. Hello, Kat. The other thing is like a Mensa Award. I was told by retailers that the Mensa Awards do move the needle for certain games of certain
Yeah.
styles. For people who want to like look at games that are, for the more intelligent people,
Right.
I guess. I don't know. The other one that
Or
actually moved
pretentious.
games was Parenting Awards, which was
Mhm.
fascinating. Well, yes, that too for Mensa. But Parenting Awards, so those type of games that are more for families and kids would win. If they won a parenting award, then they would maybe move the needle financially that way. Oh,
So
here's a
I
good
was
one. So Keith Donaldson says, "Oh, go ahead."
I was just going to mention we have had a couple of games up for Mensa Awards, and one of them was, I guess, honorable mention. It was Food Fighters. It was our first game, actually. And I felt like the Mensa thing did do something for us in the same way that the Parenting Awards, and they're like, those are both paid again. Like, you're paying for that stuff, but the there are a couple of parenting awards that seem to resonate with. There are a couple of parenting awards that seem to resonate with parents, and those parents go to stores and specifically look for that award on a box or on a toy, and they'll buy it because of that.
I'm much more likely to buy something if it's got a
Yes.
Mensa award too.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring this one up. Everyone Wins by James Wallace was a great read for insight into the process, says Keith. Thank you, Keith. That's awesome. And JF and Gavin was complaining. Gav, that's true. That Mensa does require money to apply for the award.
Mm-hmm.
JF is answering the question that you had about Far Away, which is a very cool game. I loved it. It is tricky to understand at first, and that might be why it feels for some people a little heavier. But it won as a connoisseur game for the As d'Or in 2024. And that was again a new category in connoisseur that was introduced a couple years ago in that award system, which is the French ones. So around just after, I think it was just after the Spiel des Jahres introduced the Kennerspiel system, then everybody started saying, well, okay, these slightly heavier games need that. And so, yeah, JF thinks that Far Away sits between expert games and the regular As d'Or, right? And they all, those two systems, so the two award systems, the As d'Or and the Spiel des Jahres, both require the game to have come out in the previous calendar year, which is a very good thing, I think, because then people have had exposure to it already. It's proven that it's sold some things, it's got some reviews to go, and there's some buzz around it. And then they're going to judge, does it live up to the hype, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's sort of a better way to do it than do it the games that came out this year. Interesting.
I would definitely
Andrew Wolf
classify Far
is saying
Away
that it's
as
all
a
marketing.
Kennerspiel.
Mm-hmm.
It's sufficiently complex. If I were explaining that to someone who didn't play board games regularly, they would be challenged by that. And I think that it's probably at the line. But I would definitely put it, if I had to choose between whether I would play this with some of my friends who are very light gamers and whether I would take it to a convention with gamers who game, I would definitely choose the latter. And I can understand how it is a bit of because I sort of blinked when I first saw it as well, and I thought, no, that's fair. Because if I had to explain this to someone who's only really played Monopoly or those sorts of games, they would be stuck. This is weird. I have to plan ahead, and what I do only happens when I go back. Ooh, that's actually very difficult for me to figure out. So I get that.
Yeah, Rachel gives her warmest and deepest congratulations to Helena and Jay. She's
Thank
unbelievably
you.
happy for the both of you, which is great.
That's pretty cool.
Yay!
Thank
So
you.
let's swing from a journalistic award for games that have been published to Cardboard Edison, which is for design, right? And so that's where Jay, our DJ Bell, our very own DJ Bell, placed in the top 21 that made the cut. And then, what place did you finally end up in there, Jay?
5 out of
Yeah.
348.
Wow! Yay! That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Which is great. So I'm just going to run down the list here. We've got Wild Crafters from Katie Tam. We've got Triptych from Brooks Barber. We have Theology from Manoj Gadella and Sabarish Mamidpaka. We have Slopeside by Scott Art Smith. We have Slam Quest by Jay Bucarelli and Phil Gross. We have Renaissance Fair by Leo Taylor. We have Produce Bazaar. I almost said Produce Bazaar. Produce Bazaar by Adam Eshborn. We have Mokayete by Hugo Lebravo. We have Kingdom on the Rise by Piotrek Choknowski. I'm sorry, I apologize, Piotrek. We have Invasion by Amelie LaRoche and Ashwin Kamath. We have Indie Alley by Mallory Hinks. Ice Hell by Bob West. Free Range by Pedro Ameto. Chain Breakers. That one's interesting. Oh, about bicycles. By Kyle Cushman. Bearden by Keith Dawson. Athenia by Mark Holmes. And then we have Pip It. So let's talk about Pip It, but I just want to actually mention the other people who placed in the top 5. So we have Time to Line by Adam Zwain. We have Branching Out by Jeff Grissenwaith and Elliot Michaels. We have Babel by Jonathan Kagan. And we have the number 1 game, which is actually a game where I believe there's an app and it's real time. .com by Sammy Salkind. Okay, which is super cool that games are coming up. And so, Jay, tell us about your game. Maybe even pitch it to Helaina, who's right here.
I'm here.
And then tell us the process of this whole thing. Tell us the process of this whole thing. How'd you get into this?
Sure, I can definitely do that. It's right here. This is one of my 4, I think, prototypes that I currently have that are the most updated version. So Pip It is a 2 to 4 player light strategy dice tossing game where you and maybe your partner are going to be tossing your dice into a plastic tray that is angled at 45 degrees. And when you toss your dot, you'll see one side of the pips, and then your opponent or your teammate will see the other side. And so on your turn, it's very simple. You're tossing a die. That's the mandatory action. Then the optional action is to remove a die from the pit that is yours. And when you remove that die, you get an action based on where you took it from. And the team or player with the most points at the end of the game wins. There's some side cards that let you optimize lower dice values or nice little combos and things like that. The game takes about 15 minutes to play, whether you're playing 2 or 4 players. So yeah, it's Pip It.
Tell us how you designed that, Jay.
So, Jay, can you actually show the... Yeah, can you show us the inside of the box, too?
Pip It came about 2 years and I think 2 months ago when I was doing an online game jam with Sen and Kat and for Tessa and Kathleen Mercury, who was running a game jam for us on the Maple Syrup Show. So yeah, when you toss your die in, it lands and you're seeing one side, but your opponent is seeing the other side. So you get all the dice of one color, and there are these different pockets within the pit that will let you do the different actions when you remove a die from that area. And so I just removed a 3, which would let me do a 3 power action from that space. But yeah.
Very cool. And that was all because Jay folded a piece of paper.
Yeah, Kathleen's prompt for the game jam was you have to use 10 dice and you have to use a piece of paper. And so I folded the paper to make that initial pit, and then the game just kind of built from there.
Cool.
Very
I
cool.
heard somebody describe it as like strike plus today. Something
I've
like
been
that. I think it was
getting,
might have been Matt Felici.
yeah, I've
And
been
it's like,
Matt.
yeah, it is kind of like strike with a bit more.
Matt absolutely loves it. He wouldn't stop playing it at, I think we're at PAX Unplugged. And then I got a little bit of like, feels a little bit like cornhole, feels a little bit like beer pong, but like strategy of all of those things. And I was like, this is great because that's the audience that this game is for. It's super light, it's super chill, it's pretend strategy, but really just using the randomness to make good decisions. Yeah.
Mm.
Hmm. Hello to Ian Wills, and yeah, Ian, you're right. Far Away has definitely got some complexity to it. Congrats to Helena and Jay. And Michael Petrie says, hello. I hope everyone is having a great night. We hope you're having a great night, sir. Okay, Jay. So back to Cardboard Edison.
Yeah.
I see here the timeline. January 1st, submissions opened. What did you have to submit by January 31st? So you had a month to make your submission package. What was it?
You have to submit a rulebook and a video of your game. So, like an overview, teaser, sizzle reel, whatever you decide to do. And I think there might have been a time limit of like 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, one of those things. Yeah. The submission process was actually, for me, not stressful because, yeah, that's actually a big point that I originally wanted to submit Pip It for the 2024 Cardboard Edison, but I decided not to because it was right after Christmas and I was busy and I was like, I don't want to spend a month making a video that I don't feel comfortable with to submit to the competition. And so I did it in 2024. And then throughout that year, I think I had a video ready in April because I was pitching and doing other things. Anyway, so when this year came around, it's like, you know what? I already have a video that's great. This submission is really easy for me. I can just update my rule book. And that's something that I would tell anyone who's considering it. Like, give yourself as much time as possible to prep for the submission. It never changes. So you know it's coming by January 31st.
Right. That's a great idea. And the first round judging is based just on those two elements then?
Yeah. Um, as far as I understand it, all of the entries are sort of dispersed between a very large group of industry professionals, whether they're publishers or content creators or designers or something of that sort. And um, I don't know, they review maybe a dozen of the videos and rule books and give you a score based on those things. And then a certain number of those make it to the final.
Okay. And so in late February, the finalists are announced. What do you have to do? So you got announced, obviously, as a finalist, right?
Mhm.
Out of the 385 odd entries, there were 21 finalists. Is that true?
Yeah, and you're kind of made aware of this process from the beginning. You can go onto the Cardboard Edison site and see the timeline breakdown and what the like next steps will be. So I knew from the beginning that throughout the entire month of February, the game would be reviewed, but I still had time to, make any edits I wanted to on the back end. Um, and then if I was announced as a finalist, I would be given some feedback about potential ways to improve the game based on the rules and the video. And from the end of February to the end of March, I had time to like edit my prototype, get that ready to actually mail off for final like judging and play testing over so many weekends in April.
That's really cool that they give you time between the initial and the first review to actually respond to feedback. I think that's great. Were there any changes that you made to Pip It based on the feedback that the reviewers gave you?
Yeah, one of the like consistent pieces of feedback was about how you are allowed to toss dice in Pip It, where that distance is, because the box is on the table, but there are various table sizes. People have various arm lengths and capabilities with like dexterity. So I wrote it that here's the rule basically. You have to use the vertical edge of your playing table and you have to toss from there. Your forearm can't pass that space. But if your table space doesn't allow for this, or if it's not suitable, both players or all the players can agree to adjust this tossing rule. So you can make it shorter, make it longer, do what you need to do to make it suitable for your game area.
Yeah, makes sense.
Did you consider using the length of the player's arms or anything like that as something they could use as a measure?
I thought about it, but then I remembered that like players have different arm lengths. So if you're
Yeah.
like a 4-year-old,
But then that sort of
it's like a
right.
balancing mechanism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't consider that. Yeah.
So then in April, the prototypes are due on April Fool's Day, April 1st, and then judged throughout April and into maybe a little bit of May. And then the announcer comes that you have placed in the top whatever, right? So what are you aware of during the judging process? Anything? Or are you just kind of sitting there on tenterhooks going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh?
I guess some people could be that way. I have become very chill about my game design and submissions in general. So like I wasn't stressing about it at all. There wasn't much communication. Yeah, and I knew when the dates were, right? I knew that the announcement will come sometime in the beginning of May, maybe middle of May. That was the part that I was a little like unsure of. I was like, okay, it's May 5th, it's May 12th. Is this supposed to happen soon? I don't know. But ultimately, I was just like, I'm happy that I made it to the finals. And like, I just want to see what the feedback is so that I continue to develop the game. But then once the announcement came, it was really nice to like see where I stood because I'm kind of like speculating as the finals or finalists are mentioned where my game maybe sits. And I'm happy for everyone who placed in the top 5. .com looks like a fantastic game that I would love to like sit through the anxiety of a real-time money worker placement game. So ultimately I was like, no, this is good. I am totally happy with where I played. And it feels like it was fruitful, right? I'm already getting some sort of contacts from different publishers and just people in general.
Oh, that's great. I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Privately and publicly, there are people that are interested in the game, and I'm happy about that.
Yay.
Not really that's not the reason I did it, but it is nice.
We'll have to put like a made on maple syrup stamp on it.
Yeah.
That won't move the needle at all, but it'd be fun to have it. It'd be good to have it.
I told Kathleen she's going to get a rule book credit for the inspiration.
Right. So why did you enter as a designer? I can understand entering product to an award that's already been published, right? What is the benefit for designers, whether you're a new designer or an established designer, to go for an award? What's the point?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of benefits. Cardboard Edison, I would say, does have a recognized history of like the winner is typically published not long afterwards because so many of the judges and so many of the people involved are publishers interested in signing games. So when they see good games, they reach out. So that's a part of it. But I think just also going through the motions of submitting, creating videos, writing rules, taking feedback, those are essential for any game. So submitting it through this contest was a way for me to kind of really just test how far the game had come and see like how much work still needed to be done. And I don't think there's a lot that still needs to be done, which is good.
So this is like its final evolution.
Probably not. I mean, it's like Frieza; it just keeps getting final forms. But no, it's close. I think the only thing that I want to really tighten up is the replayability. Maybe adding some new cards to make the game a little more versatile. And then I'm trying out something that's pretty fun. So you saw the original box, and I'm thinking about doing a different box top where it actually separates into two pieces that players then use to launch their dice off of. I talked about the dexterity element a little
Oh,
bit,
I see.
and being able to miss throwing your dice into the pit, maybe a little higher than I want to be at the moment. So I'm seeing how much easier it is when you're actually like flicking it off of a platform. And personally, it's been a lot easier, but I need to test it some more to see if other players would agree.
So it's
Yeah, and that could kind
pitchable.
of standardize things as well.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's pretty close. I mean, obviously, if it gets signed from pitching, then you can expect it to change a bit anyway. So, yeah, sounds good. Congratulations.
Thanks, Scott.
Cool.
So I know we're getting caught in this little bit of lag here because like I can see everybody's faces kind of reticent to talk and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna get there. Don't worry, it'll be fine. Everybody will love it. Did Cardboard Edison cost anything to enter? Is it free to enter? Is it just time and effort?
Yeah, so from what I understand, this is actually the first year that they charged for entry, and it wasn't substantial at all. And then the only other like cost associated specifically with the competition was shipping my game. So putting that in the mail.
And making a prototype.
Yeah, but I was doing that anyway.
But for designers considering it, they should be aware that they do need to be able to produce a playable prototype that can be sent in if they make it to, is it the final 20?
I don't think there's a specific number.
Oh, okay. But in that final, if you make it in the final group, you should expect that that you'll be shipping a prototype. So you should be planning to make it.
Yeah, and on that note, Kat, I would personally, and just based on the history of the games that I've seen do well in Cardboard Edison, I would say if you don't have a physical prototype, and I could be wrong as I'm saying this, I'm kind of regretting it, but I'd be surprised to see a game that doesn't have a physical prototype initially do well.
That's kind of where I was going, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know that a lot of designers submit to design competitions when their design maybe is at a stage that it can't actually be played physically for whatever reason. So sometimes it's still a concept, sometimes it's a very basic prototype, and often these days they've made it on a digital platform, like Tabletop Playground or one of those types of things. And yeah, so I was interested to see at what stage you had to actually provide a physical prototype, because I think people don't necessarily realize how long it takes to make that prototype, even if you have the skill to make it yourself, let alone if you have to order it from somewhere, which obviously, given the current situation, can I don't think that you can get it from Launch Tabletop anymore.
Mm.
In
I mean, you
in the
could, you
US
just be
anyway.
hanging through the nose. Yeah.
I mean, it's already extremely expensive. So yeah, that would double it, I suppose.
Probably, yeah. I heard somebody got like 6 copies of their game and they were paying like $200 in tariff fees for it,
Yeah.
and it's a small game.
Right.
So, Helena, do you ever do any judging for competitions and contests?
No. No, I don't. I don't like to judge things.
You're very
You know what?
non-judgmental.
I am very well, I guess that depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
You know what? For the longest time, I was teaching full time and doing this full time. And so the thought of having something else on my plate was it was like just too much. And so since I stopped teaching, I have been on several committees. For me, I just like want to make the board game space a good one. And so that's where I like to put my time. Yeah.
And has anybody else been on a committee for like an awards or anything like that?
I have with Houston for Origins.
Oh yeah. I keep forgetting that like we are. I keep forgetting we can talk about it. It's not that I forget you. It's that can we talk about that? There's a bunch of like secret committees, right? And they're not secret because it's like extra secret what we do. It's more that to preserve the integrity of the process, right?
Mhm.
That's really what it's about.
Yeah.
And but it's cool. Some contests, you know who your judges are, which is really neat. So I know in Cardboard Edison, they like talk. It's a selling point actually. These are the people who are going to judge, and it's really kind of funny because Pat Marino from the op, he actually I think he goes through every entry because he views it as an opportunity to see prototypes. It's like somebody pitching to me. So I mean, I might as well go look at them. That's what his job is, which is very different from Helena, who's doing all of the roles, right, or the majority of the roles as the publisher, where Pat just does inventor relations and pitching and that kind of stuff. So it is nice to know who you're being judged by. I think that's a really interesting thing. And it's a talking point. Hey, I thank you for judging. You saw this game. Here's a game that you saw. Would you be interested in looking at it closer? So I think there's a lot of neat things that happen with some of these award processes. But yeah, it's kind of like anything else. You kind of have to prove that the award has weight by the quality of either the process, the judges behind it, the all the above, the entrance. And I think there's a really um, interesting thing when you said like this is the first year or one of the first years that Cardboard Edison itself has introduced a processing fee, right?
Mhm.
And while it may be very small, I think what it's doing for people who are running this is just offsetting the cost of actually running this whole thing. It is not an easy process to do. It is very, very time consuming. For anybody who's ever been on part of a board or judging process or adjudication process, it's a long haul for people who are doing the behind the scenes work, and not even just people who are doing the judging. If you're creating all the materials, if you're creating the process, outlining that, herding all the cats, shipping everything everywhere, that's difficult. One other thing, oh, that's another thing we should mention. A lot of contests or awards, awards sound much fancier. They require lots of things. Some of them require that big entry fee, like Gavin was complaining about, but many of them require several copies of the game
Yeah.
itself,
Yeah.
because if they have jurors that are across the continent, they have to get everybody a copy of the game. They can't expect the jurors, to go pay for that game because they're donating their time usually in being a juror, right? So it is, for some companies, it can be quite expensive to even be in the process of a competition, because if I was to say, hey, we need 7 copies of your game, which is what it is for some awards. It's like we need one for the library, right? One for the library of all winners and nominations ever, which is an archival thing that some award systems like to do because it's important that there's an actual copy there. And then every juror needs to have a copy to test and play and run through all of the things that you need to run through so that the game has its due, right? But 7 copies, that's considerable for some players. Like, if you think about it, that's money off their plate, right? So it's interesting.
It excludes a lot of smaller companies.
Gavin.
It absolutely
Gavin.
does. And I was just going to say that, when we first started KTBG, like back 10 years ago, I wanted to send every game we made to every single, everything that can be judged. And we just like didn't have the money for it. It wasn't possible. I mean, they want like 15 copies or something totally wild for Mensa, and Origins wants 7 copies. And like, that's really a lot of money, not just the price of the game, but the shipping is really out of control.
It's the shipping.
It does really eliminate smaller companies who don't have the funds to be able to do that, which is really unfortunate because they're the ones that need it the most, I think.
Yeah.
They do.
That actually brings up something I wanted to ask you about, Helaina. Like, how do you, as a publisher, choose amongst your children for which ones that you're going to submit to these sorts of competitions?
I feel like the ones that are going to maybe move the needle for us or make me feel good about what we're doing, or is a good fit for us, I'll go after that stuff. There are others, and I'm not going to mention them, that are like also popularity contests, and I have trouble with those. When we first started on Kickstarter, I would message all my backers and say, vote for this and do that. And I just like don't do that anymore because I feel like it's so false. I really do.
Yeah.
And it's okay. I mean, people like to do that stuff and get their game out there. And you know what? For those competitions, if my game is noticed, then that's really fantastic. And it's not because I have worked to make that happen, that it just happened because of something natural. So I mean, I go after the ones that I think are just going to be meaningful for us, whether it is something altruistic or just like makes me feel good about what we're doing.
Makes sense.
Inappropriate. Hey, Helaina, Gavin Brown of Roxley Games asks, question for Helaina. Do you receive most of the pitches KTBG, or is it Josh? Both? What about for Burnt Island?
Actually, we get more pitches for Burnt Island. And that's also the one that I find more like everybody just keeps sending me the same thing, which I think is very interesting. Like, it's like everybody sends me a Euro, and the theme is often very similar, and the answer to that is no, because 3 people just sent me exactly the same game as you did. I find that people who send us pitches for KTBG, like, it just feels like they're more creative about things and are willing to like sort of think outside the box a little bit more. So I feel like our best pitches are for KTBG, but our most pitches are from Burnt Island. Josh designs like 1 game a year, and sometimes they get made by us and sometimes they don't. He has a really amazing party game that he actually designed it with our son Jory, and he really wants me to make it, and I just don't feel like it belongs in either of our lines. And I think that a company like the Op, for example, that is really good at doing party games would be much better for that. So, like he designs games, but they're not all for us. And just so people know, Josh is my husband and also does the creative direction and graphic design and, like basically anything creative and development for both of our companies.
And he's awesome.
He's awesome.
We have a congratulations from Angelia, and we have a congratulations from Latoya Simon. And then Gavin asks another question. Thanks, Gav. Gavin Brown of Roxy Games asks, for everyone who's been a part of judging, thank you for your service. And then he asks about, he said then he definitely understands the need for funds for Mensa, etc. But when these rewards reach to publish and ask us to submit and pay a fee, it can lower the legitimacy from a publisher perspective. I get that too, right? It's like, hey, come do this, and that'll be $150, please, and 15 copies of your game, right? So, and it's interesting, like the Mensa Awards, if I remember correctly, like they play them all. There's like the 15 copies of your games. It's on this one weekend where they have like a convention and they play them all during that time. And they want lots of tables and lots of people giving feedback about the games to determine the final stand. It's interesting.
When we've been part of the Mensa process twice, and I actually found it very fascinating because the first time around, which was already I think it was 8 or 9 years ago, we got all of these comment cards about from everybody that played the game with feedback about what they liked and what they felt could change about the game. And the reason that I found that so interesting is because these are people who, yes, they like to play games, but they do not consider themselves gamers for the most part. They're just, smart people who spent their weekend playing my game and giving me feedback. And so, we at KTBG at least are trying to do a little bit more of getting into mass. And so feedback like that is invaluable to us in that way. So I get there's so much administration stuff going on with Mensa. I do understand why they're asking for publishers to give them money for it, but it does take away from the legitimacy. And I started off by saying there are some paid, and it's mostly in the toy industry, and that's kind of how I feel about those awards. I have paid for them. I did also say that they're not going to give awards to things that are crappy because they do have reputations to uphold, but at the same time it just doesn't feel great to be spending money to get an award.
Yeah, there's also ones that will do this kind of trick. They'll say, "Oh, you won this award. You can say you won the award, but if you want to use the logo, you have to pay us to do that." Which I get because they're intellectual property, but also kind of shady, and it's kind
but you
of
won
this
the
back-end
award.
run, after the fact.
That should be part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be this is a thing that you get because you do that. Last question. Question for everyone. Well, I'm going to ask that one in a second there, Gavin, because that's another question. Did judging, for anybody who has been a judge, did judging give you insight stage and or what information judges are looking for? Yes, of course. 100% of the time, most judging things that I ever get involved with end up having a overhaul of their judging process because I'm that guy who rubrics for everything because I'm a teacher. And so if you ever get a you can go just have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. And what does that mean? And so it really does help me know what judges in general are looking for, but just in general, because I think there are some things that we have as designers. It's egocentric because we're the designers of our games, and we get that, and it's our baby, and that's a little egotistical. But so when we submitted games for like Mensa Awards, when we did, it's like, yeah, we submitted this game for Mensa Award, and we have this impression of what the Mensa Award should be for, but it's not at all for like the most burn brainy game ever. That's not what they actually want, because like Helaina said, they're not actually gamers. They're smart people who sometimes play games. They're not smart gamers. And so if we sent, say, mind management to them, they would not like it. It's too much for that game. But a game like Lanterns, a game like I can't remember which other ones have won Mensa, but a bunch of games that have won Mensa are like, if you know what Mensa is and you know the game, yeah, you're like, why did that win a Mensa award? Not that it's not a good game, but because the Mensa name has this baggage attached to it. So I think we've kind of got. I think if people are more transparent about their criteria for an award, it would be better. That's my
opinion. I think 25th Century Game. I think 25th Century Games has sort of locked in what Mensa's looking for. Like, they have been doing very well, and I feel like every single one of their games that's submitted, they get an award for it. Like Chad has done a really great job at choosing Mensa games.
As an aside,
Renegade
if you were interested,
does very good with that.
If you were interested in what Mensa is like and you enjoy podcasts, look up My Year in Mensa. It's Jamie Loftus did. It's hilarious and somewhat distressing, but worth a listen. It's really entertaining.
Yeah. Oh, here's a good question. So last question from Gavin. Sorry, I'm not cutting you off, Gav, but I'm just saying this was the last question you asked, technically. A question for everyone. Do you use Tabletop Simulator or other digital platforms for prototyping and iteration? Why or why not? I'll go first because I'm talking, so then everybody else can talk so I don't cut them off. Yes, because all the people live in different cities, so we have to.
Good answer.
Who? There's so much lags, and you have to say someone.
Go, George.
Yes,
I did. I said Helaina. What about you?
When someone else did, but somehow they got lost. I'll finish mine. Yes, I do usually Tabletop Playground, though I've been playing with screentop.gg. I mostly like Tabletop Playground and Simulator does the same thing, but for games that take up too much room for me to leave them set up on a table, when I often only have like 40 minutes to play through something, the save states are wonderful where I can just pause things. Like if I'm just trying to goldfish the thing and figure out like on my own whether the turn cycle works, I can work through 5 or 6, pause it, or save the state, and then come back tomorrow or in a few hours and get to it, and I'm not taking up half the room, or half the flat surfaces in the house. It's my favorite part about it. I'm done. Now, Helaina.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we for almost every game, and in fact, I think the only game that we haven't used TTS for was Layers, just because of the way it works. It's hidden, like you're hidden from your opponent, so it really didn't lend itself well to that. But on the subject of Tabletop Simulator, we started using it like at the beginning of COVID, and learned after producing a game that we basically only ever had on Tabletop Simulator, that when you have a game that's got lots and lots and lots and lots of pieces, it doesn't just set itself up. And so, like our game, In Too Deep, it's a really amazing game. It's actually a really special game, but we only ever had it on Tabletop Simulator. And it plays very well on Tabletop Simulator, and it's a great tabletop game as well, but it has a very different feeling on a tabletop than it does when you play on Tabletop Simulator. So that game really taught us how to use Tabletop Simulator properly to test games. Yeah.
Jay.
Jay, what about you?
Cool. Thank you. It definitely depends for me. I do use online prototyping when I think the game is going to do one of two things. Either I'm going to play with people online and like not with any of my local gamers, or when the game has like 500 cards that I don't want to prototype over and over. So it makes more sense to do it online. But with a game like Pip It, there's like no way for me to do it online just with building the tray and stuff. So that's usually what determines it for me. Who's going to play the game and does the game work in one of those environments? Cat.
I never use digital platforms for
Excellent.
playtesting at all.
Cat.
I heavily dislike using digital platforms, and I'm playing and designing tabletop games because they're not on the internet. They're not on my computer. They're not on a screen. The whole point for me is that it is something physical, and so from the very start of the process, it needs to be something that works physically in front of me. And it's part of my very first design process. The only time that I move things on there, and when I say I mean I ask George to, is if someone has asked us to either playtest or pitch them that way. And at that point, that has moved into development as far as I'm concerned, and it's George's game now. Because online, for me as well, those platforms often give me migraines with the way that light works and the way that the physics work. So that's the other reason I like to not play video games and things like that. So yeah, I think you got a really interesting range of responses there. Basically, the whole fan deck of different people and different ways that people use it. So that was quite good. Back to you, Sen.
I don't like it either. I'm not a fan, but I have to, right? So excellent. So I think we're ready for this last momentous thing. So I'm gonna put the focus on Cat. Let's see if I can do this. Not on me. I don't want it on me. I want it on Cat. Let's get Cat over there. Get Cat over. No.
Glad this doesn't just happen to
One
me
more. One more.
when I'm running it.
I've had to move to my phone, so none of this is changing anything.
We'll let you know.
Okay.
Yes.
There we go. All right. So
Something
Cat's in the big seat
happened.
now. That's good. So I know we're running way over time, everybody. Thanks so much for being around, talking about awards and things that we have for Cat, but I like to give
Oh no, what's going on?
Oh, Sen.
Is Sen cutting out for everyone else too?
Yeah.
Oh
Am I cutting
no.
out?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh no. Okay, well I'm back.
Okay, good.
And I was just saying that I would like to give an award to Kat for being an amazing co-host
Oh.
for the last however long it's been. I don't even know, but it's been a lot of episodes. And when I first met Kat, it was really just over this call, and it's around now. It would have been around this time of the year, a couple years ago, and
Five.
yeah, I have depression, and so when I'm not working, I just sleep. And so I made this rule for myself that I would get up every morning and I'd have a call with somebody, a game designer, a new game designer, an old game designer, it doesn't matter, but I would do a 1 hour call every morning for the month of May and June, I think. And Kat was one of those calls, and we just kind of hit it off. And Erica was moving to Spin Master full time, and switching between being a teacher and working at Spin. And so she wanted to reduce her time with podcasting and live streaming. And so she stuck with Ludology with me, but we had this space open. I said, well, okay, what about Kat? She's really cool. She has great thoughts. She is a go-getter, and she has tapped into this different audience than Erica and I had, because Alara, Erica, myself, T, Suzanne, Dylan, all that cohort of hosts, and Daryl, obviously Daryl, from the other iterations of Maple Syrup hosting, we all had the same friends. Like we had to all come up together, and so that's why I thought Kat would be perfect. And you know what? She was, and there she is,
No.
doing a great job. And she dragged George along for some episodes, and it's been great. I just want to thank you, Kat, for sticking around and being a good co-host, great co-host, and a better friend. So thank you so much. And we're gonna miss
No.
you, and you'll have to come back and wake up at a godforsaken hour, like 2 o'clock in the morning, to call in from where are you going?
Czech Republic.
Right, from the Czech
Hopefully.
Republic. There you go. Right. So thank you so much, Kat. It's been great having you on. I don't know, George, if you need to say anything to her, because she's in the house with you. But yeah, it's been wonderful. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah,
Do you have
I
any
really appreciate the
last
opportunity.
words?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it was I
There you
didn't
go.
think that you were serious when you asked if I wanted to be on the show. And I was like, oh, okay, do you mean just once? And then I found out that it's actually awesome. And this is how I basically got to meet pretty much everyone I know in the industry. And it's one of the reasons I was able to make so many friends and contacts and so forth so quickly. And I really appreciate it, because being one little Kiwi here in the gigantic United States all by myself in a lot of ways at conventions, it was really nice to be like, hey, we haven't met in person, but I interviewed you this one time. And that helped a great deal. So I really appreciate it. And I think it's definitely going to help to have that background and that sort of support network in this next very scary stage of going to Europe all by myself and trying to set up a new nest for George to come and join me in once that's all done. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you can be our European correspondent. Boots on the ground. All right, everybody. Well, it is unfortunately very late here in this end of the continent, so we're gonna have to say goodbye, and we're gonna say goodbye to Kat. This is her last show with us. George and I will be carrying the flag while Kat is, like she said, building a new nest over there in the Czech Republic. And then we're going to figure out our hosting situation as that goes on, okay? So congratulations to Helaina for the nomination. Congratulations to Jay for the award and placing 5th. And hopefully that leads to great things for Pip It. And hopefully, Helaina, that leads to great things for not only Endeavor, but the expansion that's forthcoming, and for, Kids Table board game and Burnt Island games in general. And Randy, who's in the audience, wishing you well as well. And for Tessa, our other people who are good friends of the show who were nominated this year for Spiel des Jahres. So wonderful. And with that, we'll say goodbye. Congratulations to everybody, and we'll see you later. Thanks very much, everybody out there watching. Gavin, Luke, New American Underground, Angelia, Deadpan, Latanya, Mike, Michael Petrie, Ian, Rachel, Andrew Wolf, JF, Keith Donaldson. There's so many people, so many people. So thank you so much. Oh, and Jay Bell. That guy also commented on the chat, so we got to mention him twice.
Before we wrap up, San, we should just
right.
let people know how they can reach.
Yeah.
You doing it now?
Yes. That's what I was getting to. Okay, so we didn't show any of these things, right? So let's go over here. Okay. If you would like to chat with me, you can find me at Senfeng Lim on Blue Sky. And Kat, where are you and George?
At Drea Inc., mainly on Blue Sky.
Mm-hmm. And then we all on Maple Syrup, at Maple Syrup on all the things. I think it's the only Maple Syrup. Well, actually, it's not. There are other people who use that word. I don't like that. Jay Bell told us already that he is no longer on X, but he is on Blue Sky at the J Bell or the J Bell. We prefer to say the because it sounds more royal, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
DJ Val. And Helaina, you can find Burnt Island and Kids Table board games on Blue Sky as well. Who will they be talking to when they talk to this person? Is it Sean or
Sean, it's not
is it you?
me. No, it's not me.
Yeah.
I used to do all of the things, and
That's
now
okay.
I only
Sean's
do
lovely
most of the
too.
things. He is
That's
wonderful.
fair.
You want to
It's
talk?
a
You want to talk to him.
That's good. Sean's a fun guy.
Yes.
And if you want to keep the lights on here, please check out patreon.com/maple syrup. And next week we have some more websites and software and things. Boucher from Australia. So I'm not sure if he pronounces it the French way, but you never know. Pitchtotable.com. There's a bunch of websites coming out. Like, it's interesting. So I want to know more about them and what their features are and whether they're worth the while of even registering. So we'll find out next week. And that is it from us. We're going to skip the final advice because we've gone on for quite a while. So we'll see you all later. Thank you very much for coming, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.